Hello and welcome to the watch along. It is Bordeaux Begles hosting Racing this afternoon. It's a lunchtime kickoff today, and what a game we've got in store. Bordeaux against Racing, two teams, an all-French affair. We've got an all-French day of rugby, and we're going to be doing two watch alongs, one here on my channel and one on my guest's channel, and we'll introduce him just shortly. Iofi's already putting her thoughts in the chat on Teddy Thomas. Well, surprisingly for you, Iofi, Teddy Thomas is not playing today. He is out injured, so he's not in the starting team, but I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome along to the watch along. Good to see so many of you here already, and let's welcome our guest in. It is Ben Ford from his brilliant new channel Rock and Roll Rugby. If you've not checked it out, I'll drop a link in the chat throughout the course of the stream to check it out and subscribe to his channel. Brilliant channel. That's where we're going to be doing our second watch along of the day. Clermont against Toulouse, but we're focusing on Bordeaux Begles this evening. Let's welcome Ben into the chat. Ben, how you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, good. Thanks, buddy. Good afternoon, everyone. And congratulations, Brandon, on 1,500 subs, buddy? Yeah. Big day yesterday. I was talking to you throughout the day yesterday. I imagine you slept like a baby last night.
Honestly, I was so tired. I did 4 watch-alongs yesterday. Some of the games were really good. And the Exeter-Leinster one sticks out as being, I think, for me, that's got to be, I don't know about you. Do you think that's the best Champions Cup game we've seen this season so far?
I think both sides just really showed how classy they really are. You know, Exeter went 14 points down. Leinster went 14 points down very early on. It was one of those games where you didn't really know until the second half where the game was going to go. Leinster were just fantastic though, and flying the flag for the Pro 14 in the competition now. So yeah, it was a strange one to start. I didn't think Leinster would be as shocked as they were. But when you come to think of it, you know, their game against Toulon was called off. So that was their first game in Europe they've played for a number of months now.
Yeah, very much so. I was very worried at the start. I was like, oh no, we're going to have all the Premiership guys coming on and saying that they're so much better than the Pro 14, which they are to an extent, obviously. But I thought Leinster were brilliant. I thought the physicality and the intensity from both teams was really, really good. We're going to focus, though, on Bordeaux against Racing. So Bordeaux last week, they beat Bristol, didn't they? 36 points to 17. Some controversial decisions in there for sure. But Matthieu Jalibert, how good was he last week?
Oh, mate, he just seems to be. He was given an opportunity, obviously, in the French setup with injury to Entomac. And he came in and he's put his hand up massively. And I think the Bordeaux coach said prior to the game last week, he said he's come back twice the player he'd left. You know, he's picked up so many new skills and he just looks so comfortable on the ball. And he really did, you know, he pushed the Bristol backline back every opportunity that he got. He's going to find it a little trickier today against the Racing backline, I think. But yeah, he's definitely one to watch out for today.
Yeah, definitely. I think his chip over the top against us in the Six Nations is not something I want to watch back all too often, but it was very, very nice. And then Racing obviously absolutely smashed Edinburgh, 56 points to 3. I think it's a case though, Racing are obviously very, very good, but Edinburgh have had a shocking season in the Pro 14. Obviously, they finished 5th in Conference B. The Conference
Yeah.
B that they finished? Yeah, Conference B. They finished 5th in Conference B and had a really, really tough season. So I think it was a mixture of Racing being very good, Edinburgh being really bad. But what do you make of Racing going into this one?
I think they are just a class act. You look at how they took Edinburgh apart last week. I know they were a bit slow to start. And Edinburgh for early stages of that game looked really promising. They were really putting some nice stuff together. They had the try that was disallowed, but then from there, Racing just showed, their forwards power that they've got is ridiculous. I mean, that back row, and we'll talk about it when we talk about the teams now. But the back row for me, they were the big difference in the two sides. And considering they came up against the likes of Hamish Watson, it was a massive, massive step forward for them. A lot of injuries, so that'll definitely take its toll as the game goes on. I think, obviously more inexperienced players filling the starting jerseys and coming onto the bench. But for me, I'm going to back Racing today. I think they really impressed me last week, and they're actually, I know they've got a couple of injuries now, but if they can get through this game, they might tip for the championship, I believe.
Oh, interesting. Well, talking about the teams, let's crack on and have a look at the two sides. So I am probably going to butcher quite a few names here. We should have got Ishtid on to do the teams for us. He'd have been able to tell who is who and tell us a little bit. But there are some familiar names in both teams, so we'll get straight into it. Starting out fullback, you've got Buros out fullback. Cordero, the former Exeter winger, is playing on the wing with Lam. Lammert and Mofana are in the centres. Of course, Jalibert, many people will know about him. He plays at 10 with Luku at 9. In the front row, then Jefferson Poirot plays with Mainadia and Kobilas. Douglas plays with Kazoo in the locks. Woki, of course, many people know about him. Higginbottom plays at 8, former Australian number 8, of course, and then Petty at 7. So that's how Bordeaux line up. What names there really stick out to you? I think for me, Cordero, Jalibert are all going to have a big impact, but Poirot in the front row is a very, very good prop, isn't he?
Yeah, and so much so, he's been given the captaincy for this season, which I think you don't usually see a lot of. When you look at teams nowadays, captains are usually players that are either back rows or they sort of backline players, maybe sometimes. But a front row player, it's really interesting to see they've chosen him as captain, and there's a reason, because he's a fantastic prop. Never seemed to really get on in the French setup, but I think he's playing some superb rugby at the moment. Obviously, you've got the likes of Jalibert who are really going to light the game up. But for me, Cameron Woki, the number 6 for Bordeaux, he had a superb game last week. And there was talks of him coming into the French setup during the Six Nations. He was brought in towards the end as a sort of injury cover, but I definitely think he's one for the future going forward. His ability to carry the ball in hand and the pace that he's got as well is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to see how he goes this afternoon.
Yeah, very much so. Looking forward to seeing how this Bordeaux side go. Racing, a lot of injuries for them, but we'll go through the team and we'll see who has been picked to play in this one. Of course, these are kind of the Harlem Globetrotters of rugby in many senses. They play some beautiful stuff at times. So Emiliano Boffelli plays on the wing with Juan Imhoff and Louis Dupichot. In the centres, then, a very, very well-known name here to Wales fans. Many heartbreaks playing against this guy. First, though, we have Oliver Clemencas. And then we have Curtly Beale. I mean, the amount of times he scored a try in the last minute against us has been actually ridiculous. But Curtly Beale, the Aussie, plays at 12, very comfortable along the back line. Very, very good player. Antoine Gibert plays alongside Maxime Machinot at 9 and 10. In the front row, then, you have Eddie Ben Arras, Camille Chat, Sedat Gomez-Sa, Boris Palou and Donica Ryan play in the locks. Many Irish fans will know, of course, about Donica Ryan. Baptiste Chouzanu, Jordan Joseph, and then Wenceslas Loré play in the back row. Lots of injuries for them, you have to say, but still a very, very strong side, isn't it, Ben?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the fact that you're able to still field players like Boffelli, Argentinian international. You look at the French, the French players in the front row, Camille Chat. I mean, he's lost out his place recently to Marchand, but definitely a real class act. I mean, the bloke is a unit. But the number 8 for Racing, he really impressed me last week. I've forgotten his name now, but he really, really impressed me. In terms of like the way he carried the ball. Jordan Joseph, that's the one. The way he carried the ball last week, he really made some of the Edinburgh defenders look like it was their first game they've ever played. You know, he was drawing men onto him. He was managing to offload the ball in one hand. And I think that's how this Racing team like to play. They like to keep the offload going, keep the ball alive. Are they still going to try and revert to that style of play today without the likes of Teddy Thomas, you know, running those incredible support lines that he does to finish tries off? The glue that holds this Racing side together is Chavonsi. And obviously he's out injured at the moment. You know, you've got the likes of Finn Russell still out as well. Yeah. But I still back them to do the job today. I think there's enough play. And you look at the experience, you know, Francois Tranduc on the bench, that man is a, you know, he's just eternally good. And whenever he comes on, he always seems to make a difference. So, yeah, it's going to be a superb game, but I'm going to back Racing today. Interesting.
Francois Tranduc has been around the block for quite a while, 34 years old now. I thought he'd be older than that, if I'm being totally honest, but good to see him still playing. In Europe, these two teams, interestingly, have never faced one another in Europe at all. So there's no history in Europe, obviously, in that sense. But in the top 14, both teams having a decent enough season. If we have a look at the table for the top 14 now, we'll be able to see where both teams sit. So Racing sit third in the table, while Bordeaux sit down in fifth. They're only separated by 6 points. So they're actually pretty close in terms of the table. Obviously, Bordeaux are the team, Racing are the team that everyone knows about because of, like, you know, the way they like to play the game, the way they like to throw it about. But for people who didn't watch the Bristol game last week, what can we expect from Bordeaux this week? Do you think, what will be the game plan for them going into this one?
I think if they bring the intensity they brought in the defence last week to this game, they really are going to frustrate this Racing side. And I think it's exactly what they did last week. Radrada last week for Bristol, he had a real struggle to try and get anything going forward. You know, he had a couple of chances where he maybe could have offloaded, but the defence coming up around him was so fast and so intense that he didn't get a chance to make those offloads like he normally would. So I think if they can match the intensity they did last week, they will cause Racing problems. But then, like you said, you know, with Jalibert at 10, his game management last week was superb. And at the times where it's not on, they get rid of it, and they get rid of it well. They're either turning defenders to try and collect the ball, or they make in touch, which I think a lot of sides in the Premiership and the Pro 14 are like, they sometimes a little bit guilty of that, a little bit guilty of overplaying it, especially if they're starting to hit panic mode. But yeah, a side as good as Racing, I think they'll do well to come around it. But yeah, Bordeaux have got a superb chance today. Really have got a good chance.
Yeah, definitely. I think both teams have a chance. I am going to back Racing as well. I think, again, their experience at this position in tournaments, their experience of winning big matches, I think is going to help them. So I'm going to back Racing to win this one. I think they're going to win by not quite a bit, but I think there'll be a bit of a margin. I'm going to say 10 points to Racing to win this one. What are you saying? What's the gap going to be?
I think it'll be quite close, I think. I think it'll come down to around 5 to 7 points, but I do back Racing. But yeah, we'll soon find out in the next 80 minutes.
Absolutely. We will definitely find out. Just make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you're new here, that you've liked the stream as well. It's free to do and helps grow the channel. And a reminder as well that myself and Ben will be doing a watch along for the Clermont-Toulouse game on Ben's channel, Rock and Roll Rugby. Throughout the stream, I'll drop the link in. So make sure to join us for that. Just before the game kicks off then, let's get to some of your comments. I hope you're saying Teddy Thomas had a bad Six Nations. He's not playing today. Gregor Galway's already got his Clermont top on, ready for this one. Freddie Clark says, good to see you streaming this game. Hope you're doing well, Freddie. Good to see you. First name butchered. There's going to be many today. Don't you worry. There's going to be many names butchered by myself. One Eddie, two Teddies, indeed. And yeah, Ben and myself will be doing the watch long for Clermont against Toulouse. So it's about to kick off. Just a reminder again, this is not actually showing the game. It's just a watch along. It is live on BT Sport 2 here in the UK. So if you want to watch it there, you can. But if you don't have it, this is a great way of keeping up to date. So we've just kicked off here. Bordeaux Begles in their dark blue, while Racing on their traditional white and light sky blue. So I'm backing, Racing to win this one by 10. I do think they'll just have that little bit too.
What a mistake. First high ball of the game. The Bordeaux 15 has absolutely pantsed himself up there.
Yeah. It's like yesterday when we were watching who was it? I think it was Northampton-Ulster game. And anytime Northampton did anything good in the game, that was it. They'd just drop it, or they'd miss the restart. And at the start of the game, you just want to settle your nerves. You want to get into the flow of the game, get into the rhythm of the game. And there's already someone down on the ground injured.
Yeah, Camille Shai looks a little bit...
in a bit of pain.
Looks in a little bit of pain, yeah. But yeah, like you said there, like if you look at like the way that the best sides play and competing against the best sides, you look back at the Leinster game yesterday. Leinster 14 points down very, very early on, and you thought, hang on, this is not what we're used to seeing. But it's the quality of sides that'll turn around from those deficits, and they'll go, right, this is how we get back into the game. So yeah, it's a weird one, especially, there's like less than a minute on the clock. The last thing you want to be doing is dropping a high ball like that, because that's all it's going to do is give the Racing boys a little bit more confidence to go, right, we'll keep throwing these around. But looks like Shat's going off here.
Yeah, an early change of Bubajni. I think that's how you say it. I've no idea. We're going to say it like that. So we're going to go with that.
Do you know what? I was loving it earlier on. I was looking at the teams ready for the Clermont-Toulouse game, and there was so many names that I knew in the lineup. I was like, haha, sorted right out.
Why you picked the Clermont-Toulouse game? I was wondering why you picked that one.
Yeah, because all the other French guys, I actually know who they are. So I go back to when we did our chat with Iltid, and I just think about how he said them, and I'll try and do my best Eddie Butler.
Indeed. Advantage here to Bordeaux, or was it Racing? Racing still have it, so it is advantage to Racing.
There's a man that he was very heavily involved in the French setup, but seems to drop off now. Wenceslas Laure, he was he was one of the first names on the team sheet every time they played, but he seems to have dropped off the radar a little bit now. But yeah, he's a really good player, really nuggety player. I think he's one of those types of players that France are missing out on. You've got the likes of the heavy ball carrying of Aldrit, and Olivon just gets everywhere. But like a real nuggety player like that, fair play to him. He's a cracking little player. Yeah,
I think the French side team, when they made this change, obviously they brought Galtier in, they brought Sean Edwards in. It seemed to have the mindset that, right, we're going to change everything. We're going to get rid of the old. We're going to get rid of the old mindset, and we're going to get this new mindset in. Racing are going to go for the posts here, but I did ask Kyle when we were doing the La Rochelle watch along yesterday, what's your assessment of France's Six Nations, where the national team are at the minute? Because it started so well, and then it kind of faded at the end, didn't it? So what's your assessment of where they're at?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because obviously there's the one aspect of it that you look at, and they played probably the best brand of rugby, and especially when they attack, they're one of the best sides in the world, and everybody giving all this hype in the build-up to France 2023, home country, their World Cup. But I don't know. I still think that there's a lot that they've got to work on. I think the management of their game is really poor. Like there's just this thing that sort of France play off flair and France play off intuition, and like we saw against Wales, the Jalibert chip. Literally, like that's French rugby, and that's what it always has been. There's always been that air of unpredictability about them. But I think their pack is probably one of the best in Europe now. In terms of the fact that they've got 2 second rows, which in the modern game you don't usually see. They've got 2 heavy second rows, and they're just there to bash holes. But then you've got the quality in the back line to exploit them. So I think that they're not quite the finished article yet. I think there's a lot of money and a lot of time gone into this French side, and I think for us to expect it all come now, like we said, they are building towards 2023. It's not going to happen, And when we did one of our previews over on the 3-Bod Rugby group, when we talked about France, they didn't actually need to win the Six Nations, but they just needed to show that the improvements they're making are actually of worth. So, yeah, if you look back to the games they lost, the England game was probably one of the best Test matches I've seen in the last few years. And then when they played against Scotland, I think they genuinely just, I think their mindset was so much on winning the game by the margin. Because, you know, there was an article in the week building up to the Scotland game, Charles Olivon, and he said that we've got our trophy to collect. And I think in the French mindsets, they'd already won the tournament, but it was just a case of getting to that margin by whatever means necessary. So, yeah, they've still got some things to work on.
Yeah, I think they do. I think, as you said, game management's a big thing, but that comes with experience. You've got to remember it's a pretty young squad. Obviously, it's not just Bryce Delan's fault. One, does he know that, you know, in that Scotland game, does he know that the time is up? Has someone said to him, right, just get it off? Or does he think in the back of his head that the time is still on? Let's get into some of your comments quickly. Wacky is one to watch out for. That's what Freddie thinks. Kenneth Karenan is in the chat. Good win for Ulster. They can feel hard done by not making the Pro 14 final. A bit of silverware for them, and Ireland need to look at more of their players. I think I'd be surprised if we don't see Leicester against Ulster in the semis. I think that'll be the final. I think we'll have an Ulster-Leicester final in the Challenge Cup. I was really impressed by them, but I was also quite impressed by Northampton yesterday. I thought the way they dealt with those yellow cards was really, really impressive. Yeah,
it was just one of those things, though, that you sat watching it as a neutral and you're just thinking, for goodness sake, you've just got back to full complement and you've given another yellow card away. Their discipline was so poor. It was just one of those things. You're looking at them going, what are you doing? And I was in the chat last night, didn't I? And the Ezekiel yellow card for me, I mean, what is he doing in that instance? There's so many cameras. You're so close to the referee. How on earth do you think you're going to get away with that? It really does baffle me how the French play, how the players nowadays, they're happy enough to say that the strictening of the laws and the interpretations of the referees are bringing in and making it difficult. And I understand that, but there is a certain mitigation on players to not go in with their arms down by their sides and throw a shoulder in the first couple of minutes of a game. It's weird. It really is weird. I just didn't understand that at all. But like you said, whenever they started to do something well, they just seemed to compound it with a mistake, and it was really, really difficult for them to get any sort of foothold in the game.
Yeah, it was. I thought that Ulster first half really had to make more of the opportunities that were given. Jalibert has just slotted a penalty to make it 3 points apiece. But then in the second half, I was really impressed by the way that they realised, all right, the way to beat this Northampton side is to stretch them, is to try and throw the ball about a little bit. They were very good going forward as well, through the forwards and things like that. And I think Ulster have always been a good side. They've always had this ability, haven't they? But historically, they've always struggled in the big games. They haven't quite turned up in the big games, because in the Pro 14 this season, they've probably been the most entertaining team to watch, the style of rugby that they play. And I mean, for us as the Ospreys, honestly, the style of rugby is not great always, but it gets you results most of the time. Except for against Newcastle when we're 14-0 up. But we won't get into the Welsh regions too much. But yeah, I thought Ulster were really good in the second half especially. And Iofi would be really happy that Jacob Stockdale scored, because he did get a really good try in that one. Bordeaux have turned the ball over here. Good work. But
yeah, it was. Yeah. Let's be fair to him. I put it in the chat, right? That try, people will say, "Oh, Stockdale did really well." He got a name on the try sheet, but it was simply down to the fact that Freddie Burns put him in the biggest hole ever. Yeah. Which, you know, any winger who's hungry enough is always going to look for that hole anyway. So, you know, it's I'm not against Stockdale. I think that he's been messed around by the system a little bit, very similarly to Hugh Jones. Is that, you know, for Ulster, he plays a lot on the wing, but then when they're short on players, he plays fullback. Billy Burns, you're right. Sorry, Gregor, my mistake. I always get the two of them mixed up. Oh, okay, I made a mistake. Oops, my bad. They all shouted at me now, Brandon. I'm not coming on. I'm going off now. Bye. But no, I think the Ulster setup at the minute, they just got a really nice team, and I like the way they play. Apart from the fact that Michael Lowry literally looks like he's got school on Monday morning. that boy is blessed with the fact that he looks ridiculously young.
Yeah. And the thing is, he's actually really good. He didn't really get the opportunity yesterday to show what he could do. I didn't feel like he got that opportunity that much. And I was quite surprised when they took him off early. And I thought those changes worked really, really well for them. But obviously, you know, Ulster flying the flag for the Pro 14, Leinster flying the flag for the Pro 14. You did a video, though, on the differences between the Premiership and the Pro 14. What were the biggest things that you found from that that you think really reflect where both leagues are at the minute?
Yeah, so like when I did it, I did it purely based off stats. And obviously there was a lot of chat in the rugby community anyway regarding the fact that in 6 of the instances of the round of 16 matches, Pro 14 opposition were all knocked out by Premiership sides. So a lot of people were talking about it. Why is it happening? So I delved a little deeper and had a little look into the stats behind it. And to be fair, it was difficult because the Premiership were a game behind. But even still, it was really interesting to compare the two. But the biggest thing I found, and this happened across the majority of the stats, is if you look at the Premiership in comparison to the Pro 14, the top side in the Premiership in regards to the bottom side, the gap between the two of them is not that great. You know, like for example, tries scored. I think the top try scored in the Premiership is something like 110 or something like that, and the lowest is 87. So the gap is a lot narrower. Whereas you look at the Pro 14, the top was Leinster on 90 something, and then you had Benetton down on 48. Yeah. So when you look at the stats, and I did it off averages to get the best view of the leagues, and I said in the video is that the sides like Leinster, Ulster, Munster, they were lifting the other sides down the bottom end of the table up. Whereas in the Premiership, they all seem to be on a roughly level playing field. So yeah, it's definitely. I think the big thing that came out of it was, and it was black and white to see in the stats, is that the Pro 14 placed way more of an emphasis on the defence. And the side I used was the Cardiff Blues because they just about the Blues won the most turnovers with 104, and I think second place was 100, exactly 100 or 99, something like that. But in the Premiership, the Blues would have still come out at the top on 104, and the second place then is like 78. Yeah. So it's like the Premiership sides, they try and keep the ball alive a lot more. They try and look for the opportunities a lot more. Whereas in the Pro 14, they're almost willing to accept teams attacking them. And I think to an extent, we saw that in the Leinster game yesterday because they just backed the likes of Van der Fleer, Ruddock to get over the ball and turn it over.
Yeah, they were really competing out the breakdown, which I was really impressed by. Leinster. And I do think the Pro 14 and the Premiership is different games, isn't it? And I think in the Pro 14, the battle at the breakdown is always much bigger. There's always an emphasis in the Premiership that, so if your team, like Leicester, have a really good driving maul, so they always go to that to attack. I think in the Pro 14, sometimes teams maybe worry maybe a little bit too much about how they look attacking potentially. Yeah. And I like, as an Ospreys fan, as I already alluded to, we don't play the best style of rugby. 100% we don't, but it works. You know, on the whole, it works. We get a job done. Although when we miss a few players, we really do struggle. But it's like when I did my tier list for the Pro 14 teams, I was looking at some of the sides and some of the names involved. And you said to me that Josh Adams had only played 3 games for the Blues all season.
Yeah, so he's played 3 games for him in 2021. He's played six all season. Which, because I looked into it, because I was going to do in terms of like when I was looking at the stats, is looking at those international players and picking out like some of the key ones and looking how many games they've played for their regions this season. And it was crazy to see. Like you look at Anthony Watson. Anthony Watson has played well over half of the games for Bath this season. Yeah. So is that a structure fault from the league's perspective? You know, because the Pro 14 went ahead all the way through the Autumn Nations Cup and all the way through the Six Nations as well. So, you know, the Premiership is still going to be going on once, you know, Europe is done and dusted now. And I don't know how the end of their season is going to look. But definitely, like, it's not fair on players like Josh Adams, not fair on players like Navidi. You look in terms of the Ospreys, you're on the likes of like Justin Tipuric, because they're expected to compete at the top level. But they're not constantly playing at that top level, and sometimes that comes down to the quality opposition in the Pro 14. You know, just how much a Leinster are going to get out of a 57-point smashing against Benetton. Yeah. But you know, we live and we hope that things get better, because it hasn't always been the way. You know, the Pro 14 sides. You know, if you go back into the 2017, I think it was the 2017 Champions Cup. the most represented side in the knockout stages of both tournaments were the Pro 14.
Yeah.
So it hasn't always been a problem. It just seems all of a sudden it's something that's creeping up. So fingers crossed it can be sorted soon. And the likes of, see the Ospreys getting back to the standard that they were in the 08-09 series. But yeah, was that a drop goal then?
It was a drop goal. Racing have just pulled a drop goal out of absolutely nowhere. And Racing take the lead, 6 points to 3. We are keeping an eye on this game, obviously, but not all that much happening in it. But we will keep you up to date. But I think with the Pro 14, when you look at it, as you said, I think the big thing is in the Premiership, anyone on the whole can beat anyone. In Pro 14, you would never, ever, ever see a Benetton beat a Leinster. It would never happen. I mean, Leinster only lost 2 times a season against Connacht and against us. And that's it. And it just would never happen. And I think some teams are improving, but some teams are definitely getting worse. I think the Blues this season massively underachieved. If you look at the squad that they've got, they should be doing a lot better. And although those internationals aren't there, you have to think about the financial implications of that. So Josh Adams' contract would obviously be paid partly by the Welsh Rugby Union, but not fully. So it still cost a lot to the Blues. And a guy like that is going to be on a decent amount of money to have kept him in Wales. We're enticing all these players back to Wales. But how much are we actually going to see them? I'm not too sure. So it's going to be a massive issue.
Yeah, and I think, and it's partly down, if you look at sort of the way they're doing it down in the Southern Hemisphere in terms of when the Tri Nations is or the Rugby Championship as it is now, that's always played is sort of the start of their season almost. So then after that's finished, then they go back to their club sides and they play the majority of the Super Championship. But whereas for us, the season starts in September and we've got autumn internationals then come November time. So if we go flat out, you might get 6 or 7 games. Probably 2 of those are European games anyway. So that's that. And then you're going into camp then ready for the autumn internationals, which is usually a fortnight beforehand. So, when you add it up, and like you're seeing in the chat there, a lot of it is down to the fact of how crowded the rugby calendar is. And they were saying, with the big thing when Scotland and France were looking to rearrange their Six Nations game, the biggest thing was that they said we can't find a gap to fit the game in, which is partly, as fans, we absolutely love it, the fact that we've got so much rugby to watch. I've managed to sit down all weekend and watch games throughout the weekend, which is great for me. But at the same time, you start to think of the toll it takes on the players. You think about the toll it takes on the clubs as well at the moment, because obviously we're still in a COVID situation where people can't watch games, people can't go to see the games. So they're definitely struggling financially as well. So I think it's difficult to read too much into anything at the moment, obviously because of the situation we're in, but it's definitely something that has raised concerns and something that World Rugby definitely need to look at, because to make sure the rugby as a whole is improving, it's definitely something they need to look at.
Yeah, it's something that football does, doesn't it? All the top leagues in Europe stop for the international break. The Championship stops as well. League One, League Two carry on playing. Maybe that would be a good idea for rugby to look at. But then there's so many competitions. Obviously, we've heard news this morning about the Rainbow Cup, about that being in doubt. The South African team, to have seen a journalist who I do trust what he says, he's tweeted out that the only hope for those South African teams, because it's been reported that the British government won't give them the visas to come across. The only hope really is that they'll find a hotel in Ireland where they can base from, and maybe the regions will have to travel over to Ireland in that one. It is 6 points apiece in this one, 18 minutes gone, just kind of going back and forth in this. But what would you like to see happen with the Rainbow Cup? Because I was quite excited for these South African teams to come over to see the difference, see the level, see how good they really were.
I think it was sort of going to be a first in its kind of bringing that Southern Hemisphere style into the Northern Hemisphere. And it was definitely something I was really looking forward to. I didn't understand like sort of the layout of it, and I think we've had the first round of fixtures released, the first 3 rounds, but for like Welsh sides, the first 3 rounds are all against the other regions. Yeah. So it's hard to understand really what's going to happen at the moment. But it's a big concern that obviously if they don't come across, how much of a knock-on is that going to have for the future in terms of this year? The Pro 14 was down to 12 anyway because the Cheetahs and the the Cheetahs and oh my gosh,
Southern Kings.
And the Southern Kings, they didn't come across anyway. So the season was down to 12 anyway, which means the teams are playing less games anyway. So it's a difficult one, obviously, from a financial standpoint. I think the Pro 14 was set to receive a sum a fee in the sum of around £8 million, which, considering the season that they've had in terms of no people in stands, it would have been a massive injection of cash and capital that could help improve things. Whether that'll still be given if the British government don't, if it is the British government that's not lending them, you can't imagine that they're going to give away 8 million just willy-nilly, if it's not their fault. I know that they're having a lot of issues in South Africa at the moment with rising rates as well. So lots and lots of things, lots and lots of mitigations at the moment that could see it go ahead or not go ahead in some form or other. But I think for me, if it's going to go ahead, they've got to do it properly, and they've got to make sure that the safety of the players is put at paramount, importance. So yeah, that's not really an answer there, but it's not a lot that we know at the minute, so it's difficult to see where to go with it. Yeah,
we don't know much about it. It's pretty recent news that about the Rainbow Cup, about it maybe not happening. But again, then if that doesn't happen, if South African doesn't happen, are we going to have a mini Pro 14 again? Is that what's going to end up happening? And I don't see the clubs agreeing to something like that, where, to be honest, there's not much point for them to do that. They've just played all these teams already, and then most teams would then treat it as let's just chuck the kids in. Let's just give the kids a go. I think a lot of teams will do for the Rainbow Cup anyway. Although I think the Welsh regions should try and take it seriously. But how many of the internationals would say, yeah, I'm going to be happy to play for the region, knowing that there's a Lions tour coming up in a month's time, and say, I'm happy to put my body on the line for that. I just don't really see that happening too much. Let's get to some of your comments, because I'm aware there's a few comments I haven't quite got through. And make sure if you're watching that you're subscribed to the channel, by the way, and leave a like on the stream as well. This game's been a bit of a weird one, bit back and forth, not all that much happening, a lot of penalties at the breakdown. So we haven't really, there's not that much to report on, to be honest. It hasn't been as free-flowing as we thought it would be. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Dazzle the Killer is in the chat. Hope you are doing well. On Josh van der Vleer's family moved to Ireland from Netherlands in the 50s to start a radiator factory. I just did not know that. There you go. That's the kind of stuff that you learn here on BS Rugby. So, yeah, good to know that. Let's have a look. If you're doing a Premiership watch-along, they're starting at 4. Yeah, we're going to do some Premiership watch-alongs next week. Probably will do Wasps Exeter next Saturday. I won't do one on Friday. I don't think so. Let's have a look. On the Pro 14, Leinster in 2017 did not have the depth that they have now. Personally, not playing games during the international period, I say that will help out. That'd be really interesting to see. Jalibert is going for the posts here. 2 out of 2 kicks so far.
Absolutely nailed it.
Really good kick from Matteo Jalibert, and Bordeaux take the lead in this one. But I do think it's an interesting debate on Leinster. Obviously, Leinster yesterday were brilliant, except for that opening 10 minutes. But the depth that Leinster can put out, that if Leinster were to put out their second team, bar Munster and Ulster, I think they could beat anyone in the league with their second team pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and I think it's something they've always prided themselves on, that Leinster is a massive rugby community in terms of their schooling, in terms of the academies that they've got out there, and it's all primed towards that sort of that first team. And they do put a lot of emphasis on their A side as well. But like you said, it's not going to be competitive enough. Like you said, they could put a second string side out and it would probably beat the most of the sides in the Pro 14. And I don't think that's down to a standard rugby issue. I genuinely think that's just down to a quality of player issue, quality of exposure to these top levels. And the only thing that I'm looking at that comment there from Sean where he said about not playing games during the international period, I agree that it does sort of free up time, and obviously that when it comes to league, then you've got your best side competing. But at the same time, what are those players that are not playing international rugby supposed to do in the meantime, there's professional players that are not going to be playing international rugby who are sat down. Like, say, for example, the first round of the Six Nations is usually a fortnight. So there are players then who are still professional players who are not playing rugby for a fortnight. So is there something that comes in between then? Is there, do they play friendlies? Do they play just things like that to sort of plug the gap? Because I can see from that perspective then that players have still got to earn a wage. And if they're only playing rugby when the squads are at full strength, is that really going to work? I don't know. But it's certainly an interesting proposition. And it would see the likes of, the Blues, the Ospreys and the Scarlets, because from my video, they were the ones that were hit the hardest in terms of the Welsh regions. They would have their fully strength squad available as often as possible. So it is a difficult one, but it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. Penalty to Racing here. Again, lots and lots of penalties being given away at the breakdown. And I think that's what's contributing to a really slow game. Neither side can really get anything going because the breakdown is just being so strictly refereed, we'll say that.
Yeah. The ref is straight on them. I do think the game will open up. It's similar to the one yesterday with La Rochelle and Sale, where it's very slow to get going, but it will open up as both teams look to go for it. And if it's as close as this going into the final few minutes, then it will open up. Machino is going to go for the post. Now, Freddie's put in the chat, have you seen that Italy are going to sack Franco Smith? I've tried to find a report on that. I've not found that anywhere. So if you have a link for me, Freddie, you can send me that on Twitter. I can have a look at it and see who's written that. I've not seen anything said about that at all. I've not seen anything. But Machino right on the post, and he's got it over, and we are all level. 9 points between the two sides now. So slow start, really. Lots of penalties at the breakdown, but 9 points apiece between the two French sides. Of course, later on, just to remind you once again, Clermont against Toulouse on Ben's channel. I'll drop a link in the chat soon to his channel and to the stream as well. And we'll be doing that game over there with some of the best players in the world playing in that one, with Dupont playing at 9. I mean, how do you stop Antoine Dupont? That's the big question, isn't it? How
do you stop him? I think he just does the basics so well. And his support lines, I mean, I was looking at something the other day. Apparently, Aaron Smith did an interview before one of the Highlanders games, and he said that he's gone back to the drawing board and he's completely sort of reshaped his game by watching stuff that Antoine Dupont is doing, which, considering Aaron Smith was the best scrum half in the world for probably upwards of about 9-10 years. He's been that good for as long as he has. And the fact that he's still learning from players that are new on the scene, I think is really, really good for the game. But I think that pairing at Toulouse, we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But considering where Toulouse were, when you think back to the glory days and the superb team they had, the won 3 championships, and then things really dropped off and things got really bad. And they start, and now obviously they sat up at the top of the top 14 at the moment, and obviously competing in the quarterfinals of Europe. They're back to where they are, and I think a lot of it's come from back in these youngsters, back in the youth, like Ntamak, Dupont, and they're definitely going to be one of those sides that are up there. And I think they're going to try and really push to win this title, just because I think it'd be a real show of how far they've come as a side.
Yeah, well, they could go for the double, couldn't they? And how can we forget Cheslin Colby as well? I mean, that guy, his feat is actually ridiculous at points. And, of course, a good guy clearing up the rubbish last week. But we'll focus on that game in more detail later on Ben's channel as we do a watch-along for that one. Nearly half an hour in here still, 9 points for Racing, 9 points for Bordeaux. Do you think the ref has been a little bit too quick at the breakdown, not letting the game flow? Or do you think that's style? I don't know.
I think he's just noticed the fact that both sides are trying to get this quick ball, and both defenses are trying to slow it down as much as they can, as often as they can. So I think he's just trying to clamp down on it as much as he can. But I think this game could quite easily get lost and become a kick fest before long if he doesn't let some of it go. And I think it's got to result in cards. If he's having to give this many penalties away, then he's going to have to show his cards. I think so many referees across the weekend have been guilty of that, of not giving cards when maybe they've seemed like it should have been given a card because of things that have happened in the build up to it. Like we talked yesterday at Johnny Hill's attempt on Johnny Sexton. For me, that's a card all day long.
Oh yeah,
and the discussion that they're having, with the TMO starts off at red, and he worked his way all the way back to just a penalty. I just didn't understand it at all.
Yeah. I thought, I couldn't believe it. He started out red. He was like, right, we're looking at a red card. And then he's like, just a penalty. And I was like, how can you go from being up here to being here so quick? And the second one, then Kruger on Ross Byrne, then for me, it's borderline. But I think he was like, right, I've only given a penalty for that one, so I have to be consistent, give a penalty for that one. I don't know how he's gone from being out of red to being out of penalty so quick. And I just don't get that at all. I thought Leinster were very, very good, but you have to try and have as much consistency as possible because, we saw Sexton going off with a concussion. Yesterday, didn't come back on. We know he's had a lot of concussions over the years, but I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's been playing really well recently. But you still got to try and be consistent, and we're not seeing that level of consistency at all from that ref. And for me, what makes a good referee is clear communication. That's why I love Wayne Barnes. I think Wayne Barnes is communication. You know what he wants from you as a player. At home, you know what he's saying all the time. The communication is always so important. And the communication from the ref yesterday was horrific at points.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't good enough.
I just think sometimes the standard of refereeing is just what lets so many of these games down. Like you said, outside of a small group of referees, the standard of refereeing overall is not where it should be. I would say probably the best standard of refereeing we've got at the moment is in the Gallagher Premiership. The Pro 14, we've fortunately got Nigel Owens now, and I think he's just going to do some Pro 14 now until he retires fully, but he's definitely done with international. But yeah, I think just the standard of refereeing is really what's letting a lot of these leagues down because, like you said, some referees they stick to the letter of the law. Has he gone for another drop goal here? Oh, no, it's gone wide. They stick to the letter of the law and they referee the game as strictly as they can. But then, I've had this chat with my father many, many times. There's a difference between rules and laws because laws can be interpreted. And I think that's what the biggest problem is. There's so many different referees have got so many different interpretations. Yeah. I've said it before when we've watched games with Wayne Barnes as refereeing. For me, the situation at the moment when people are jackling for the ball, is referees are looking for a clear lift now, but Wayne Barnes, he's always so quick on it, and he just says, look, that player is in a position of strength. He's trying to keep that game flowing. There's no need for that man to be over that ruck for 5 or 6 seconds, lifting that ball up off the floor. If he's in a position of strength and he's not going to get off it, then it is a penalty. And I think that's what a lot of referees need to realise is that the flow of the game and the way that the game is played is far more important than sticking to the letter of the law as strictly as possible.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, I listened to a podcast last night. A good friend of the channel, Nathan Johns, who does the Leinster Rugby Roundup show, has his own podcast with some friends of his, and they do a quick review of the matches afterwards. And he was saying that the way the game is refereed in the top 14 is very, very different to the way it's been refereed in the Pro 14 and in the Premiership. If that had happened in the Premiership or in the Pro 14, that would have been a yellow or red. It certainly would have been looked at as a red straight away, and they'd have gone through the process, being communicated clearly all the way through. And it's not having to go at French referees, absolutely not. No. But it's just the way the game is being refed, and maybe for that game, they should have got a referee who's refed in the Gallagher Premiership or in the Pro 14 and understands how the game works more here. I know the referee yesterday's done quite a few international games, but the international game is very different to club rugby. Racing are attacking here. We'll keep an eye on how they go. But the club rugby in the Pro 14 and the Gallagher Premiership is different, yes. But then you say the top 14 is even more different than the Pro 14. So the way that referees are going to manage the games, are going to ref games, are going to make certain calls on things, is going to be different because of their experience. And so maybe the wrong referee was in the wrong place. So maybe for him, if that's a game in the top 14, he's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But in this game, it's obviously very, very wrong.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to, like what you said, what they're used to. If they referee in the top 14 week in, week out, we look in here, the Bordeaux defence at the ruck there is so intense and it's so brutal that, they're probably expecting these things now and again. But then when we see, like what we did yesterday, where sometimes it is just a case that it's a massive hit and it's a really, well-planned tackle and it's a huge hit. But nowadays, you see a massive tackle, and the first thing that the referee's doing is look into the linesman to see whether it's if there's been foul play. And it takes away that sort of that aggression and that thing. The rugby is, we understand that there's a lot of issues with like head injuries and things like that lately, but rugby's rugby at the end of the day. It is a physical contact sport, and if you start to try and take things like that away, the game is going to get overtaken by a new mold of player, a new build of player. We've already seen, back rowers now are more, a more sleek than they're faster runners. But then you do get the occasional player that's a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger, and it breaks the mold again. When George North came on the scene, apart from the likes of Jonah Lomu, we've never really seen a winger that was that big and that could move as well as he did. And that's another thing that sort of comes into things in terms of when referees are refereeing the game. It's like what they're used to on a weekly basis. But looking at this one here, you can see what most games in the top 14 are at the moment. It is brutal, it's attritional, and it's penalties at the breakdown again. That's I would love to see the stats. I know you'll probably pull them up at halftime, but how many penalties have been conceded at the breakdown? Because it seems like every phase of play there's a penalty at the breakdown. Yeah,
that's what it seems like it is at the minute. But I think that whole idea of is it the right ref in the right game, I think it's something that needs to be looked at to understand the flow of the game. There's so many comments coming in. Sorry, I haven't got to them. I'll get through them now. Back onto the issue of the South African teams in the Rainbow Cup. Anthony says the South Africans do come to Ireland. There's a 2-week quarantine hotel first, so that's something that they would have to do. Let's have a look. What else? We've gone through Freddie's comment there. Leonardo's playing PS4 and listening to the live stream. Love it. That's good to see. England have the two best referees in Barnes and Luke Pearce. I do like Luke Pearce a lot. I think he's very good. LuTube's in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Robert Caldwell says you could argue that would be good for rugby to involve smaller players. Now, they're checking something here. I'm not sure what they're checking. Let's have a listen.
He's given a card. He's literally just talked to his linesman. He's given a card. Don't know what that's for. Remy Lamarat going to the bin for 10 minutes. What's it for?
Let's have a look what this is for.
Oh, it's a trip.
Surprising in some respects. We're at 36 minutes and it's the first yellow.
Ooh. Is that harsh? Do you think? Or is that just an accumulation of penalties?
Yeah, I think the referees just had to do something because so many penalties have been given away. Yeah. I don't know with that one. He's got to get back up off the floor, and I think as if you were thinking his defensive coach is going to say that once he's attempted that tackle, if he's missed it, the first thing you do is work your socks off to get back in that defensive line. Yeah. So that's a difficult one for me. But like you said, it could be the fact that he's given so many penalties away now. It had to result in a yellow card, no matter how big or small the indiscretion was. Look at me throwing big words out on a Sunday.
What have you done? You started eating a dictionary for breakfast. It's a tough kick from Ashino, though. It is a very tough kick for him.
He strikes. Have you seen the strike?
Oh, my God.
That's got to be one of the worst struck kicks I've ever seen.
Much better from Jalibert.
I think he was trying the Dan Carter banana kick then. He hit this away. But I saw something really interesting. I knew I was going to bring it up to you. Warren Gatland's about to name, obviously, his coaching staff this week. Do you see the fact that the three that he was intending on offering positions to have apparently said that they're unavailable?
So I know that Gregor Townsend's set to be named as the attack coach.
Yeah.
Who else has he offered to?
So from what I read, he wanted Andy Farrell again for defence, but Ireland still looks like they're going to be going ahead with their summer tour. And apparently he said that because of the stage his side are in terms of transition, it would be something that the Irish board, not as much him, that the Irish board would struggle to release him because they want to see this continued development. And considering the Six Nations they had, even though they finished second, you've got to say that they weren't playing their best rugby. So it's definitely something that they would need to look at. And then the other one was Steve Borthwick, who's obviously just taken over at Leicester Tigers. And for me, he's brought such a fresh approach to Leicester in terms of, like, you look at that team he started yesterday, people saying that, like, oh, Leicester are not taking this competition seriously. I genuinely just think it's the fact he's giving these youngsters the chance in the bigs. And my God, that Leicester pack yesterday, they absolutely demolished Newcastle. If you were in Newcastle front row yesterday, you just wanted to go and sit on the bus and go back home as quickly as you could because they got absolutely battered. But back to the point, apparently Steve Borthwick has said that obviously because of the stage he's at, having only just taken over, it would be detrimental as well for him to take up that role. So I don't know. And again, this was all speculation and rumours. Whether it actually happens or not, we're not sure. But it's certainly been interesting to see who Warren Gatland names in his coaching setup. I've got a tenner on Rob Owley anyway. And I think Rob Owley's got a tenner on himself.
I'm not saying anything to that. But interesting. Oh, gosh. But... Gregor Townsend, I saw an article this morning saying that he's going to be offered the attacking coach role, which would be interesting to see if he got that. Warren Gatland obviously would go. You think Neil Jenkins would go as the kicking coach? Who else he'd pick? I'm not too sure. It's going to be interesting to see who goes on this tour because I think this tour is going to be a very different tour, isn't it? Part of me is glad it's going ahead. Part of me isn't. Part of me is glad because we're going to have the Lions. It's going to be great. It's great for the channel as well, but it's also great to watch the Lions play rugby. But as well, it's a bit annoying because I was thinking, it's in a year's time. I'll try and get out there and see it. But we'll just have to see how the Lions goes. This summer be really interesting. Freddie, I've read the article, mate. I'll have to dig a bit more into it because I'm not sure if I trust that source all that much. If I'm being totally honest, I've never heard of them. So, and they're the only people that are reporting that. So, I will have to dig into that a little bit more. We're into the red here. It's going to be kicked off by Jalibert, and Jalibert kicks it off for half time. So at half time, it is 9 points apiece. It's been a piss poor first half. If I'm, I think that's the way to describe it. It's not been great. The ref, I don't think, has helped the game, but I don't think the players have helped the game either. But hopefully, in the second half, it will open up. How do you summarise that first half? We haven't really been watching it all that much, to be honest.
I've been looking at it out the corner of my eye, mate, and like you said, it's every time that a team are trying to launch an attack or trying something, there's penalties at the breakdown. And, obviously Matthew Carley's had enough now and he's given his first yellow of the game. To be honest, for me, the fact that we were 35 minutes in before we saw the yellow card is appalling because we'll have a look now at halftime to see what the penalty count was because it was far, far too high for it to have warranted the first yellow after 35 minutes. You've got to say it's a bit cagey as well. Both sides obviously want to win the game. Both sides want to do it by whatever means necessary. But very cagey affair so far.
Yeah, I think it will open up in the second half. Myself and Ben are going to take a quick 2-minute break. Then we'll look at some stats and get into some of your comments. So if you have any questions or comments you want to get in the chat, make sure to do so while we have a quick break and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be back in a second to review this horrific first half. Poor Ben. What are you laughing about?
We've got a Jacob Stockdale fan club going on in the chat.
I mean, if Jacob Stockdale gets onto the Lions tour, I'd be absolutely amazed. But I know Iofi believes that he's the best thing since sliced bread. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, of course, but he's just not at the level that he was at in 2017. Anyway, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll be back to review that first half and look forward to the second half. Make sure you've subscribed and you've liked the stream. We'll be back in a second. There we go. We are back. It is half time in this one. Bordeaux Begles 9, Racing 92-9. And to say that it's been a poor game is an understatement for sure. But we have been chatting all things rugby, and we'd love you to get involved in the chat with your comments, your thoughts on the first half, and anything really that we're chatting. We've been discussing about the Lions, but the difference between the Pro 14 and the Premiership, the standard of refereeing in the competition. We've chatted about it all, and I'm joined for this watch along by my good friend Ben from Rock and Roll Rugby. Ben, not a classic of a first half, was it at all, compared to yesterday?
Oh, mate, no, it's been absolutely trash. Like, I've just been downstairs now and watched paint dry for 10 minutes, and that was far more interesting. So, yeah, it's really difficult because you can't say, oh, they should be playing this wide open, expansive game. You know, it's a quarterfinal of Europe, for goodness sake. I mean, you've got to understand that. But at the same time, it's been awful, really, really poor. I think both sides have looked really nervous, but the penalties at the breakdown have killed this game off.
Yeah, massively have. Just a reminder, folks, we are going to be doing a watch along on Ben's channel, so I'm going to share a link to that in the chat now. Make sure you go over there, hit the reminder on it, like and subscribe as well if you haven't done so to Ben's channel yet. Make sure that you go and do that as well, and I'll share a link in the chat for that now. Let me just do that now. There we go. So it's Clermont versus Toulouse watch along, two massive French sides, and that's going to be a really, really good game to watch. Some of the best players in the world playing in that one. So the link is in the chat now. So make sure to head over there, hit the like on the stream for that one, the reminder as well, and subscribe to Ben's channel. And we'll be going live at about 2:45 for that one. That's a massive game out in France. And the French team seems to be dominating this competition at the minute. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes later on. Let's look at some stats from this opening 40 minutes of this game. I mean, as we said, it's not been a great game, but it'll be interesting to see the different stats from the breakdown and penalties and everything given in between. So let's get some statistics up on the screen if my laptop wants to start working. Thank you. Okay, it wants to work. Good. Right, let's try. There we go. Let's share the screen. So here we go. This is how it looks at half time. So Racing have dominated in possession, 69% to 31% of Bordeaux, with territory being 70% to 30% of Bordeaux. So for Bordeaux, you'd be pretty happy with this. Racing have had all the ball, but I've done nothing with it. But again, we're going to have a look at those penalties at the breakdown in just a second. Meters gained, once again, Racing are leading in that one. Defenders beating their leading passes. So they've just been very dominant with ball in hand. Defensively then, tackles going in, 67 tackles, 232. 10 missed tackles, 3. Turnovers, 1-3 for Bordeaux, 0 for Racing at the breakdown. So showing that Bordeaux are targeting the breakdown that little bit more. If we look down at discipline, though, penalties conceded, 8 penalties conceded for Bordeaux to the 6 of Racing. It's quite a high score of penalties already in this game, and it just stops the rhythm of the game quite a bit. Both set pieces are going pretty good for both teams. Bordeaux only missing the 1. At the breakdown again, both teams are pretty strong at the breakdown when they're not being penalised there all that much. So on the whole, it's been a crap game, if we're being totally honest. But you've got to say that things you hope will open up in the second half as it gets closer towards maybe the 60-minute mark. The team will start to, you'll get a sense of who's going to win this, won't you? Yeah,
I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's going to be very similar to the game yesterday in terms of the fact, like if we look back to the Leinster and Munster game, I think the better side is going to come shining through in the second half. And I think Racing, they really have to start converting that dominance they've got in terms of territory and possession. They've got to turn that into points. I know Marchand missed one of the kicks just before half-time because he decided to hit it with his ankle or something. I don't really know what he did with that kick, but it was absolutely dreadful. But yeah, I don't see it coming to life greatly. I'm surprised. We've watched the two top 14 sides, and we haven't seen a try yet.
No. It's been a very cagey affair. Do you think the French teams maybe take this competition more seriously? Because obviously the Pro 14 Well, the Gallagher Premiership sides, especially, obviously, they've got a lot to play for, but the top 14 sides still do. But even yesterday, Northampton's team was not a full-strength side against Ulster. So do you think the top 14 sides see this as more of a serious competition and maybe it's more prestigious to them?
I think if you look at it, and I've spoken to you about this before, if you look at the top 14, it's very much a business. And you look at the way that most games go, very rarely do you see a home side lose a game, and I think it has changed slightly more as we come forward in time now. Obviously, 2020-21 season, we've seen a couple more sides do it, but traditionally, the top 14 is more of an entertainment purpose. That you go to any home game in the top 14, and it's think of when Toulon, you go down to the Stade Ernest Vallon, packed full of fans. They got the flares going. They've got it all going. It is, and they put on a show. Whereas when they come to Europe, that's when they start to see, and especially these big investors in French rugby, that's when they start to see their investments pay off. Is it worth buying all these big players if they're not going to compete at the top level in Europe? And I think in the majority of cases now, you're seeing the French sides really start to dominate in Europe, like they did, back those years ago with the likes of Stade Francais, Toulouse in their prime. You come forward a little bit more to Toulon as well. Those sides really are starting to assert themselves again as the best in Europe. And I think it is down to the financial implications financial support that the French clubs have, opposed to the other sides. And that rather than building a strength in depth, they almost purchase a strength in depth. So it's starting to work for them.
It's like when Toulon went through that phase of buying all the best players in the world. Johnny Wilkinson, Lee Halfpenny, who else was there? Matt Gitto. And now, of course, they've gone and got the likes of Eben Esterbeth and people like that stepping in and playing for them there. So they seem to. But I don't have a problem with that at all. I think if you want to win titles at the top of the European game, you're going to have to get some of the best players in the world in your side. And do you think if we look at Wales quickly, I know we're focusing on the French side here, but if we look at Wales, do you think that's something we've been guilty of in the past where we've said, right, we just got to have Welsh players here? Do you think maybe, because I know the Ospreys are looking at a Crusaders player of New Zealander to come in, and with the Pro 14, when we see it all the time, when the regions lose their internationals, they really do struggle in the league. So do you think that's something that the Welsh region should look at more, maybe buying players from abroad who are going to be there 12 months of the year?
Yeah, I think you go back, it's been something that the regions have done for a number of years now. You go back, and we've talked about this before, you go back to the Osprey side of sort of 2008, 2009, and although they were the biggest contributors, there was one time where the starting lineup for Wales was made up of 13 Ospreys players. And that was a difficult time for them. But then you look at the likes of then, they brought in players like Marty Holler, Fido Tia, Sonny Parker, all these players that Sonny Parker, even though he played for Wales, he was there all year round. He was there week in, week out, doing the things that he does best. And I think that is the advocate for bringing in these overseas players who not so much don't have international commitments, but don't have the same international commitments. You look at, for the Blues, when they brought in Blaine Scully a few years ago, still an international, still a very, very good player, but plays for the USA. Their international schedule is different to the one that is in the UK, which obviously doesn't have as much of an effect on the region. So it's definitely, I do think we're going to start to see a lot more Georgians coming across. We've started to see it a little bit more for the French sides and a couple in the Premiership, but I do think that as Georgia push forward now for this status of being in the top tier of European rugby, you are going to see more of them come across to play for these sides so that the national side benefits from it.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them do play in France, don't they? A lot of them play in Georgia itself. We just kicked off for the second half here. Don't forget, Bordeaux are down to 14 men for the next 5 minutes. So we just kicked off. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're joining us, it's not an actual showing of the game. It's just a watch along. Can't show the game due to copyright, but make sure that you're subscribed. Hit the red button down below. It's free to do and like the stream as well. And then straight after this, we're going to be doing Clermont against Toulouse on Ben's channel. I've dropped a link in the chat. So make sure to head over there, hit the reminder on it, subscribe to his channel and like the video as well. Freddie says on night there, some of the Prem sides have brought in South African players over the past few years. We've seen them with Sale, obviously a big South African contingent there, and they seem to have that understanding that we need to be competitive all year round. Yes, their finances are better than those of the Pro 14, but to be competitive all year round, you do need a lot of squad depth. And I don't know, I think in England, I don't know, from my viewpoint, maybe the sides are a little bit more selfish in terms of their players, in terms of what they do. Maybe in the Welsh regions, because the Welsh Rugby Union has such a say in the regions, how much those players are actually allowed to play against, like we're saying. So maybe Pivac says, right, Six Nations coming up in a month. I want my players as fit as possible. I want them as fresh as possible. Do I want them playing week in, week out? Do I want them traveling to Zedborough? So it's a 4-hour flight there. You stay overnight, play in a pretty poor field. It might be hot. It might be quite a hard surface. He comes back and then he's a bit, like that. So I don't know if that's what's going on there, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see if that was the case.
Yeah. If you look back to a few seasons ago when there was this mass exodus of players going across to France chasing the big money, there was a massive reason why the big French sides were offering this money, because you look then at the likes, like we mentioned there, Toulon, when you had Wilkinson, Giteau, all these players then. For the French teams, yes, it's all about competing, but it's also about protecting their own. And you look at like when Jamie Roberts went out to Racing, I think there was a staggering stat that he played in he played a part in every game that he was out there for. And then he's expected to come across then to the national side for Wales and compete. Well, from a Racing perspective, they don't need to look after him. They've purchased a player and they're going to use him to the best of their abilities. It's the same with the English Premiership now in the Six Nations. Where we have those breaks where there are Premiership games being played, you see a lot of the players. We've seen it this season with the likes of Stuart Hogg, Dan Biggar. That they are recalled to their club sides, and it's not because they're trying to be detrimental to Wales's progress, but it's. They've paid for those players. They're paying their wages. They want to get the most out of them, and I think that's sometimes where, like we've said there, about having Welsh players in Wales, and I completely agree with it because we can look after them ourselves. But then, like you see, sometimes looking at that top level, is it worth having our best players playing in a league that doesn't really support the development of those players?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think. You look at Finn Russell has gone over to Racing and how much that's improved his game, how much he's developed from heading over there. But then for the Welsh boys, it never really worked out in France. Dan Lydiard's had a horrid time with injuries. Jamie Roberts played a lot, but didn't really have the impact. We spoke to Ish, did a little bit about it as well, and he said that Stephen Jones really was the only successful one to really go out to France. Jonathan Davis went out to Clermont as well. Lee Halfpenny went out to Toulon. There's been quite a few lads who have headed over there. And I'm not really sure what I think about this whole Gatland's law as such. I'm not even going to try and say the guy's name who's just come on in the front row for...
Go on, have a go.
Let me get it. It's like in have a go. Racing have made a change, and they are going to go for the post here. I'm going to try... I think I've got it.
I got it.
Goggy. No, I don't. Goggy Chassavilli. I'm going to go with that. Guram Goggy Chassavilli is on in the front row for Ben Arous, who is off. That change has just gone through at the start of this second half. Machino with a kick. Surely can't miss this one as much as he missed.
I wouldn't count anything after the last one. That's a better strike.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just me. Does it look like it's because that ball curved an incredible amount? Yeah. Is it windy out there today? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anything of the flags or anything.
No, I'm not down bad boot either. So I'm not too sure what's going on with Machino's technique today. But Racing are leading this one 12 points to 9. It does look like it's quite a warm day down in France.
I know. I think I don't know how they do it. These professional players, they're being paid all the big bucks to run around in lovely, glorious sunshine. Whereas in Europe, we're playing in the piddling down rain and the freezing cold. It was like yesterday. It was a lovely sunny day, but my God, it went half cold.
So So 5 minutes into this one, Bordeaux have about 30 seconds left on their yellow.
You've got to say that considering they've been down, and I always find those yellow cards are almost the best ones to concede, where they're sort of spread out over half time, because then it's 2 manageable chunks, it's 2 5-minute blocks. And I know it's still the same time period, so it doesn't really make a difference whether it's 10 minutes in one block. But I think sometimes, especially if you're under the pump, if you go 5 minutes without a player as opposed to 10 minutes, I think it's really, really beneficial. But yeah, it's from a Racing perspective, you would have wanted them to make more of that, even though he's come back on 10 seconds before the card is up. But never mind.
What they do, do what they want a lot of the time.
Do what they want. Yeah, just crack on. Because last week against Bristol, obviously you didn't manage to see the game, but I think there was a lot of occasions last week where the French broadcasters were questioned, because the TMO, for one decision, the TMO spent like 5 or 6 minutes, and he's just saying, "Show me this angle, show me this angle." And they were saying in the commentary that there's upwards of 12 cameras available to the television match official, but they were only being given the pictures from 4 of them. And whether that's true or not, again, we're not going to speculate, but it's just what I listened to, the BBC Sport, BT Sport even presenters, they were quite happy to say it. Well, I say happy. Austin Healey was quite happy, and he's quite an outspoken character when it comes to controversial issues anyway. But yeah, it's a weird one, because you're looking at it then, the clock is saying there's 10 seconds left on the yellow card, but he's back on. So
yeah, who knows what's going on? Bordeaux have had a decent spell of possession here in the Racing 22.
Oh, lovely run from Charlie Bay
that we've seen. Good hands.
He's such a balanced runner as well, Charlie Bay. He's not the biggest of guys, but when he runs with the ball, he looks so composed.
This really is the first proper attack we've seen from either side, to be honest, throughout this match. Bordeaux with a good chance here to try and take the lead. Obviously, both teams have 15 men now.
Is that a turn or advantage? Could be a card here, I think.
Yeah. Chance for Bordeaux here. They just got to try something now.
This is going to be close.
Very close.
I think I'm all for, picking and going close to the line. There we go, and it's paid off from there. Definitely got over the line anyway.
Is that a try?
Yep, it's been given. Oh, no, it's penalty. No. Sorry, my fault. He
was held up.
He's walking back over to the spot where the penalty was given. The thing I'm loving about this now, though, is I don't know if they'll do it or not, but we saw it in a couple of the games yesterday. Tap and go penalties are back.
Yeah.
Used to absolutely love that when you were playing as a kid. You were like 5 yards out from the line. You just get the biggest player just running like a steam train, tap and go, and just like charge through the line.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're going to take the points and square the game up. But yeah, probably the most attacking Bordeaux have looked in this game. They do look to go through their forwards a lot. But they've got some really exciting talent out in the wings. Like Ben Lamb came across from the Hurricanes in New Zealand. Really, really nice player, and spent a lot of time on the 7 circuit as well. So he's a really exciting talent. But Jalibert to go for his 4th kick of the game.
He's been really good today. I've been very impressed by him already.
Beautiful kick, lovely strike.
Yeah, very, very good. Not Bristol. Definitely not Bristol. I'm sure Bristol would love to have him at. Well, no, Callum should be better. It's fine.
That's fine, yeah.
5 points apiece in this one then. And first time we've really seen Bordeaux attack with any kind of sign of looking like they're going to score. So 12 points each.
It's
beginning to open up.
Yeah, I think this weather has to take a toll on it at some point. Like literally, you were about 10 minutes in, you looked at poor old Jefferson Poirot, and he looked like he was absolutely melting. Love him. But yeah, and I think we saw it, especially in the Sale La Rochelle game, because for me, La Rochelle dominated that first half yesterday. but yet they only went in at half-time 2 points up. So, these French sides, they are patient and they will wait for the opportunities later on in the game to put their foot down. But, they would have played each other already this season. They know each other a lot better than, some of the other games we've seen this weekend. So, first mistake I've seen from Jalibert.
Yeah.
But he's made up for it with a lovely chip. The bounce of a rugby ball is a cruel thing.
It's so audacious to try that. But if you're playing on confidence, you might as well try that. And the game is you can sense the game is opening up now. I do think we're going to see both teams try and run it a little bit more in this one. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see both teams. Half an hour to go now, so just gives me flashbacks of Jalibert's chip against us.
No.
Well, I mean, it's just like ridiculous. The flair, the French team have always had the flair, but with Sean Edwards, it's shown that they have now got some organisation. But again, they always got this ability to implode, haven't they? They've always got the ability to implode. Let's look at some of your comments onto the Bristol game. The broadcaster showed a great angle, but then the angle went missing. Convenience for Bordeaux, that was. We have a Frenchman in the chat, Shaoli. Bonjour, ça va? Alain to Bordeaux, indeed. Really good game, this one. Enjoying this match now-ish, maybe. I think it is going to open up. It's showing signs of opening up, which is always good to see. There should have been a red in the La Rochelle game. There's a shoulder to the head. I've watched so much rugby this weekend. Remember that one? I actually do not remember that one. So I'll have to have a look back at that one. But I remember the Exeter Leinster one. The first one, especially for me, has to be a red. I don't know how he doesn't go with a red there. And now apparently Ross Byrne is better than Owen Farrell. So yeah,
I'm not an Owen Farrell lover, but
yeah,
I don't think Ross Byrne is better than him. You can't get into the Irish side at the minute, so never mind being better than Owen Farrell. Yeah. However, controversially, Owen Farrell doesn't make my Lions squad.
Oh no, he doesn't for me either. He doesn't for me. I think if you don't start Owen Farrell, what does he offer coming off the bench? In my opinion, he doesn't offer anything. There's nothing that he offers. If you're going to take him, he has to start. But if you're not going to take him, I don't see the point of having him there. For me, I will do my Lions team, obviously, and we'll do one together as a Welsh Rugby Roundup show. But for me, I would start Sexton at 10 and have Russell on the bench. That's what I would be doing for the Lions. What about you?
For me, the 3-10s that go, I was saying this yesterday to a friend. I don't like the idea, but I know that Gatland is going to go with what he knows. And I do think Sexton will start if his body makes it. He seems to be falling apart at the seams at the minute, bless him. But for me, Sexton will start, and I agree, Finn Russell off the bench. He definitely offers something. I don't think he starts a game because I think his composure sometimes lets him down. But yeah, he definitely comes off the bench for me. But you obviously take a midweek player that'll go as 10 as well. Wouldn't mind betting if Bigger is the third fly half because he's been playing some really nice rugby at the minute. Or, there's a lot of talk that people have been going. People have been saying that players are going to have to be durable and play in multiple positions. And I'm wondering maybe that's the experiment that Gregor Townsend tried out in the Italy game when he played Hogg at 10. I'm wondering whether that they're going to take Hogg as a 10 and as a fullback.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I don't know, maybe. But definitely Hogg starts at fullback for me. Freddie asked what our back row. Well, I'm going to do a specific video on that, so I don't want to spoil that. But that's a brilliant battle in the back row for sure.
Just on the back row? An entire video just on the back row.
I mean, there's so many great players in those positions.
You could take 3 back rows. You could take 3 full back rows out on the Lions tour, and all 3 of them could be starting in a test.
Definitely.
I do think, though, one of the guys who put his hand up yesterday was Josh van der Fleer. I think he played so well yesterday. Really, really well. It all depends on what balance Gatland wants. If you look back to his time with Wales, and especially with the Lions as well, down in New Zealand, went with Warburton, a jackal specialist, went with Sean O'Brien, who's just an absolute bulldozer of a bloke, but also very good on the turnovers as well. He does like having those fetchers in his back row. or will he go for power? You know, will he try and match the South Africans pound for pound and go with power? You know, the likes of Stander then. The only thing I think we can say for definite is Faletau starts for me.
Him or CJ Stander, they're taking a look at something here. I think it's I'm not really sure what they're looking at.
It's a shoulder to the head that they're looking for. And for me, it is a shoulder to the head. But
he's falling,
Curtly Beale's going down.
Curtly Beale's falling, isn't he, really? There.
Oh, there we go. I agree with you, Ophi. That's the first thing you said. Finn Russell is overrated and shouldn't be playing for the Lions. He's overrated slightly, but I think he is a good player. I do think, and I think sometimes that's what lets him down, because obviously there was a gap for him when he wasn't involved in the Scottish setup. For whatever reason it was. You're starting to lean towards the fact now that it wasn't an issue between him and Gregor Townsend, because obviously he's come back into the fold now. The likelihood is that if Gregor Townsend goes on the Lions tour as well, they will work closely together. I just think there's so much hype built up around him. You know, the French style of play allows Finn Russell to do what he does best, but it doesn't work always in the European style of the game. So I think not so much overrated. Maybe overrated is a harsh word to use. Perhaps overpressured. Yeah, maybe.
I think if you're playing for Racing and with that pack in front of you, you're always going to have the platform to play. And the game in France is that more physical, isn't it? So maybe he has a little bit more time on the ball. I'm not too sure. Obviously, international teams now tend to have this blitz defense, don't they, where they really come forward and really go at you.
It's like we were talking a few weeks back when we talked about like the way that Finn Russell plays and the way that the other players around him read off him. And for me, like when you look at when he does these little chips over the top and these out the back door passes, it's because the players around him at Racing read it. And like I said, you know, with 99 times out of 100, if he tries that little chip over the top, it's not a case that he's called to Vakatawa and said, start running. As soon as that ball is on his boot, Vakatawa's chasing it.
Yeah.
And I think they just read each other really well. Let's have a look what's happening by here then, because the big guy has flown in, Ben Taufi Fanua. No, not Taufi Fanua. Taui Funa. He was playing out in New Zealand for a while. They're not giving a card or a penalty?
It's a tough one because Curtly Beale has kind of slipped. He's gone for the ball.
Yeah, and that's where we talk about that mitigation. You know, there is that mitigation that he's going down. And, you know, for a big guy like that, if a player is falling anyway, he's never going to get in a position to tackle him. Tackle him legally then. But again, you've got to say, though, if the player's going down, why feel the need to tackle him? Just stay there to make sure that he doesn't get back up. Yeah,
exactly. Mashno going for the post, right in front of the post, and he gets it as well. And Racing take the lead in this one, 15 points to 12 in this one now. And Racing pushing towards the semi-finals now.
Do you know what time the draw is being done for the quarters? Is it straight after the Toulouse game?
5 o'clock, yeah.
It is straight after, is it?
Yeah. So changes for Racing, we'll go through them as they are announced. 3 changes, I believe, came on there.
Yeah, nothing's come up yet because the wonderful French broadcasters are really doing us a solid here. As people commenting, Tranduc's on. The regal Tranduc.
Jeez. I was so convinced he was older than 34. He's been around for so long.
Probably like 134. Mind you, though.
A long time.
I'm telling you now, if they take Sexton to South Africa, they'll have to take him on like a pensioner's bus or something, because he's literally like... And I do understand as well that, you know, the game is so physical, but yesterday... He just got smashed every time he tried to run the ball in or do anything with the ball. He was getting absolutely smashed.
The problem is the way he plays, though. He takes the ball high up to the line and releases. And quite often, if they have a powerful winger, someone like a James Lowe will come inside and he'll pop into James Lowe, and James Lowe will go through the contact. And, he's been doing it for years. He's slowed down a little bit on it recently over the past over the past couple of years, I'd say, since having all these concussions, but it's still something that they do way too much. Like that, it's just so it works, but he's getting hit by usually the second row. Every single time he's been hit hard by the second row, and you've got to say that for him, you worry about the effects long term for him, don't you? For Sexton, because with concussions and things like that. Oh, Bordeaux have taken this one quickly. The scrum half.
My gosh.
No way.
Oh, no, for me, that hooker has come in there. He's got no right to come in at that speed and clear out in the way that he has just then. What an absolute fool.
Has he...
The penalty is for Bordeaux, but I don't understand how, because his clear out was dreadful.
Yeah, I'd like to see this back.
And they go to the corner.
It's gone Bordeaux's way, and they've gone to the corner here. So being 3 points down. So we do have the changes finally. Suteni is on for Lamoureux in the centre. We've only had one change confirmed. We love
Look at this clear out here. That's stupid. That is ridiculous.
Well, he hasn't gone with arms. He's used his head to clear him out.
He's that low. He's almost like drilling. Excuse me. He's almost drilling into the floor. He's gone that low there. Oh, there's another one. That's the guy then, Dweber.
Yeah, Dweber's one.
Oh, Freddie's just dropped a comment in the chat, Brandon. I think
the best attacking fly half in Europe. Come on, Ben. Try not to be deluded as he joins the Ospreys this summer.
Come on, Freddie. You're going to cause a fight between me and Brandon now, and we've got another stream to go yet. For me, he's a very, very exciting 10. I wouldn't say he's the best attacking fly half, because attack is built up of so many different things. It's about how you put players into spaces. It's about kicking as well to an extent. We talked about Finn Russell, so I definitely think he has got an eye for an attack that a lot of other 10s in the Pro 14 don't have. And when he's on his form, you look back to that Scarlets game just before Christmas. That's probably the best we've ever seen Jared Evans play in terms of like ripping through sides. I think he could be, and I think the exposure to the national side is really going to have helped him in terms of his development. But like we mentioned, he was away from, and I said about this in my video, is that Jared Evans and Thomas Williams lined up for the Blues in their the round of 16 knockout match against London Irish. London Irish had one international that went away, and he didn't feature in the game, Alan Dell. Clean through. I should have given the pass, Higginbotham, but Jalibert for the lie. He's dropped it. What an absolute flump.
How's he dropped it? Has he gone backwards or has he gone forwards?
Well, he's given knock-on advantage to Racing. But in that instance, he's just holding the ball out in one arm, just trying to stretch for the line. White line fever. He saw his name in lights.
Yeah, he should have just gone down. It's not the greatest clearance. Bordeaux really
line break
now.
What happened
there too?
I think it was the Racing defender coming over the top of him that's taken the ball out there. But that was a lovely pass about Higginbotham through.
Yeah. Jalibert in the centre of everything.
But yes, in summary, Freddie, Jared Evans is the best outside half in the world. He's going to go on the Lions tour and he's going to be captain. And in the next 10 years, once he's played his 300th game for the Blues and scored 10 million points, he'll be put into the Hall of Fame as the best outside half that ever lived.
Was it today? We'll see you next time.
was that deluded enough for you, Brandon?
I think Jared Evans is a very exciting fly half. His game management needs to improve a lot, but that will come with experience. It's like last week against London Irish. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week, wasn't it? Or was it week before? I can't remember now.
No, last week.
Yeah, last week. There were moments in the game where he looked a little bit like a rabbit in the headlights, a little bit, where he's a little bit not sure what to do. I remember there's one moment specifically where he gets the ball in the 22 of London Irish, just stands there and does nothing with it, looks around and just drops to the ground. And it's like...
It's difficult, and like I'll go back to it now because we've got a break in play whilst Jalibert lines this penalty up. I said that Thomas Williams and Jared Evans started in that game. And Thomas Williams obviously heavily involved with the Welsh setup whilst he was fit. Jared Evans in and around the camp, but only played one game before that London Irish game. And obviously, when you come to Europe, the sides are geared up and ready to go towards winning this game. You look at the London Irish side that were opposite them, and that side has been, apart from Allendale, one player who didn't feature in the game, they've just had the same team consistently playing throughout the season. And, Paddy Jackson building up a lovely little relationship with Nick Phipps.
Yeah.
And it was always going to be a difficult game. And I think it's, the Blues were competitive, and I think they really did trouble Irish at times. But I think ultimately their defence just fell off, and it was far too weak in the end. But I was saying to you yesterday, Brandon, because I had a lovely little clip of your face right at the end of the stream. Isn't it ironic how all the sides that absolutely dumped the Welsh regions out, they're all out now?
Yeah, it's just typical, isn't it? It's I think, though, if we'd have gone through and played against Leicester, potentially we could have got battered in that game.
Well, I looked at it, and so obviously, if you replace the Welsh regions with the sides that they were close with, so the Blues would have ended up playing Bath, and I think that would have been a close game, but I think Bath would have still won it. The Scarlets would have played La Rochelle, and the way they're playing at the minute, that would have been, it was a cricket score for the Sale. You look at the Ospreys, they would have played Tigers. I think they'd have competed with them in the pack, and they would have really put their foot forward. I think Newcastle they were far too weak. Far too weak.
Discipline. I mean, they were lucky to have. I thought the scrum, I don't know how many penalties he let them get away with at the scrum. I thought it was ridiculous at points.
I do think the referee was partly to blame in that situation as well, though, because when he gave the second yellow to the number 17, the guy that'd come off the bench, he actually just gave him a yellow card and said, "Yep, off you go, see you." And then it was only a couple of seconds later when he was watching it back on the review on the big screen, he realised he'd already given him a yellow. and it was just a case that, their scrum was really struggling, but they kept, like you said, when you bring Genge and Cole on, and Tom Youngs as well at hooker, I thought he was great when he came on. The fact you've got all those players in reserve for when things are perhaps not going completely to plan, it's always helpful. Another successful penalty for Jalibert.
Bordeaux taking the lead in this one now. 18 points to 15 in this one.
Surely we're not going to go a full game without a try. Surely not.
It'd be typical. And then the next game we'll probably have 6 tries apiece, won't we?
It'd be something ridiculous. This has definitely been the worst game of the weekend so far.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've actually been blessed. Because I sent you a message yesterday. You asked, do you want to do watch alongs? I was like, I'm really looking forward to today's games. If anything, by yesterday's to go by, it's going to be a really good day. And then we get this rubbish.
Yeah. We've got 17 and a half minutes for this to come to life. Oh, that's high. Oh, but Ben Lamb's got through it. No, it's not Ben Lamb.
You do feel like the next score is really important in this one. I mean, if Bordeaux get a try, Racing really going to have to come out and play.
Yeah.
So that what would certainly help the game out. But Bordeaux have managed the game really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Really, really well. Just done the simple things, not trying to overplay too much. Oh, nearly an intercept there.
It was close.
Squeaky bum time there.
Love that saying. Squeaky bum time. Yeah, perhaps it's not high. He has hit the ball there, but it's sort of the arm has been pushed up to him.
Yeah.
He's gone for the rip. But yeah, this Racing side, they've got the stardust there to really push on and do well in this game. All this French in the comments, Brandon. I don't speak French. I don't do French.
Je ne sais parler français. I think that's what I can't speak French is.
Oh, there we go. You perhaps drop that in the description. Je n'ai pas parlé français. Je n'ai pas. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. Sorry. Oh, that's a huge hit, mind.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's shoulder to head. Oh, no, he's going.
Oh, it's close. Interesting comment, Freddie. we were talking about earlier on in the stream that obviously it looks like the South African sides, as we understand, are being limited in their approach to the Rainbow Cup. You know, they might not be let in. They might not be let in. They might have to isolate whatever the situation is. But the way that it was understood was that the top two South African sides in the Rainbow Cup would go through to the Champions Cup and take the 4th place off the 2 4th place sides in Conference A and Conference B of the Pro 14. Obviously, if that doesn't happen and the Rainbow Cup doesn't go ahead, then the Blues will get Champions Cup. And I think it's got to that point now where you hope that they do get Champions Cup, because they need to be competing at the top level. Like we've talked about, there's only so much you can do down in the Challenge Cup, and it is a fantastic competition, and it gives so many more sides. You know, like we saw the fact that Benetton made it to a quarter-final last night and played really, really well from what I understand. But yeah, these sides need, if you want to be competing at the top level, you need to be playing the best sides. But yeah, I at first thoughts, I thought that it was you've got that off Google Translate, haven't you? You've got that off Google Translate.
Speak French.
You've got that off Google Translate, haven't you?
No. I know that. Just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Can you read it out to me and tell me what it says?
I don't want to show off and make you feel embarrassed, mate, so I'll let you go on that one. But yeah.
What's the French second row you don't like?
I'll let you try if you want. You can take the lead on this one.
I think he's playing this afternoon, mate. I've been practicing ready.
They are actually checking this tackle. What are your thoughts on this one? I'm thinking yellow card here.
It's come up off the ball. It is to the head, but like you said, the arm has come off the ball for me. So I'd like to say yellow, but someone tells me you watch, it'll turn around to be red now because he has made that contact with the head. And they keep showing the same angle as well. You know, you need to show the one where he comes up. This one might be better because he definitely comes up off the ball and he's going for the rip. Oh, I don't know.
It's whether his forearm catches his face or if his forearm catches here, the ball, and then moves up with the shoulder.
But I think this is the one that's important for me as well, is that now they're showing it in full speed. And yesterday, with the Johnny Hill incident, they showed it so many times in slow motion, and they showed it so many times, and you were looking at it going, yep, it's a red. Yeah. And then you watched it in full speed, and it actually looked worse. So I think you've always got to see it in the context of how it actually happened. Yeah. Sometimes slow motion makes things look way, way worse than they actually are. But I do think he's going off here.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be sent off in this massive moment in the game. Let us know in the chat what you're thinking. Freddie and Robert seem to think this is going to be a red card. And with just over 15 minutes to go, this could be massive in the game with Bordeaux leading by 3 points. They're still checking it.
This is what makes you think it could well be a red.
I think this is going to be a red. I think it's a red.
For me, if you look at how he's going into tackle it, he's far too upright. Fair play to you, YouTube. Getting gold 3 in foot champs. I can't do foot champs. I get triggered far too easy.
Oh, weekend league. It does something to a man that no man should ever experience. Here we go. Let's see what colour is the card going to be.
Yellow. So he'll come back onto the field with 6 3/4 minutes remaining.
Interesting.
What's his name? What's his name, Brandon? The guy that's just gone off.
His name is Baptiste Chouzenu.
Very good. That was very good.
Didn't even struggle. Baptiste Chouzenu.
Get the beret out.
Get the onions.
How many stereotypes can we nail in the next 10 minutes?
Let's not offend too many Frenchmen.
Yeah, no.
Try not to. But yes, Chouzenu is in the bin for 10 minutes. For me, probably should have been a red.
Could have been. It could well have been.
It's the French, isn't it? I know it's not a French referee, but what's the narrative? What's the directive that he's been given for this game as a referee?
I don't think, personally, Matthew Carley's had a very good game.
No, he's not let the game flow. There's been no flow to it. Jalibert
has missed the penalty.
Yeah, he's missed. So it still remains just 3 points difference as we head towards the final quarter of an hour. You have the distance, but not.
I told you it was blowing a gale. Do you see the flag then?
Yeah, now. I think Martino's kick, though, was a little bit, I don't think
that was a dreadful strike. There was nothing more than that was just a bad strike.
But let's see, final 50 minutes. Well, Bordeaux might as well go for it here, really, just to make the most of this yellow.
I think Jalibert will be looking for those opportunities now. Shoes are new. Oh, it's a lovely little kick, that.
And that's the thing. At the breakdown, not having that Jackler, not having that someone who's going to create that, like, be annoying around the breakdown. Racing are going to miss that.
Oh, now for me, that's a yellow as well. That's a professional foul there.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're doing there, slapping the ball at the scrum half's hands.
And it's unnecessary as well.
Like, they're not going anywhere. They're on their own 10-metre line.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lovely little flick between the legs, and Imhoff starts dancing away.
Oh, lovely here from Racing.
Oh,
Imhoff. That's disgusting. That
was naughty, that was.
It was. Just danced around a couple of players like they weren't even there.
It's a good job we're not actually showing the game, Brendan, because you'd have had to have it age restricted for that then. That was filth. That was pure filth.
I don't know why they're showing the offload. Why don't they show us him dancing past 2 or 3 Bordeaux players? Are we going to? No, we're not seeing the right angle.
You've got to feel sorry for the big guy there, trying to defend someone and stepping back on your inside. You just throw an arm out and hope for the best. And then when it comes to the review on Monday, and he goes, "What happened there?" I was like, "Oh, I tried my best, ref. I tried my best, man. I got there as quickly as I could."
Now we're seeing the dancing footsteps from him off.
He was a fantastic player back a few years ago.
I
know he's had his struggles with injuries.
Their way, didn't they? It does seem like they lost their way. A lot of them managed to lose their way over the years.
But it was like, you think of the Argentinian side that did so well in the 2015 World Cup. Well, Argentina always seemed to have really, really good World Cups. Yeah. But, it was that instance that, they've got so many good players. Boffelli's playing today, Imhoff's playing, Cordero's playing on the opposite side. So, that, some really, really good players coming out of Argentina, but they never seem to be able to translate it. I think it really has helped them being in the Rugby Championship.
Yeah.
Another penalty at the breakdown.
Boy, this is going to have to be a yellow now. We've had, 6 advantages on the bounce, 6 penalties, something like that.
Was it on the furlong shuttle? Oh, mate, I tell you, he's a joke, mate. He's not even allowed in the front row as Union anymore with feet like that. It's just a joke.
I did say that was Tommy Bowes in a disguise, so
I just love his nickname. I just think have you seen his nickname?
No, what is it?
The Jukebox. Because the hits just keep coming. Love it. Absolutely love it.
What a player he is. I think he has to start for the Lions. I think he's been brilliant. He has to start.
Yeah, he's for a big guy as well. He's got a really good pair of hands on him, and he's really, really good in open play as well.
Yeah.
He knows full well when he's got to carry the ball and when he's got to do his job up front, but he also knows at the same time when to get rid of it.
Having the 3, so 18 points, heading towards the final 10 now. And although we haven't seen the free-flowing rugby that we'd like to see, it is going to be a nail-biting finish for both teams.
Jefferson Poirot, fair play to Jefferson Poirot for a front rower. He's nearly an hour into he's well over an hour into the game, sorry, and it certainly has been a tough game for the forwards. You've got to say that. The forwards have definitely earned their money today.
What do you think would be the mindset of Racing now? 5 minutes left on the yellow, 12 minutes go, drawing. What is the game plan for them to go and win this match now? What do you think they need to do?
I don't think they'll do anything outside of what they're currently doing, mate. I'll be brutally honest. I think they're going to just try and... I think they've got Curtly Beale and the likes of... the fly half, I forget his name as well. They've got to start playing the games in the right areas of the field. And you've got to try and stem the flow of this attack, because they are going to start looking now. They've still got 4 minutes... or a mistake there, but yeah, they've got 4 minutes still with a man advantage, so they've got to try and make it count. Currently 0-0 in terms of 3-all, sorry, in terms of the yellow card period. And you traditionally, especially at this stage of the game, you want to be at least getting 3 to 6 points out of a yellow card. So Racing has just got to sit tight until they can get back to a full complement, and then they'll have 7 minutes to throw absolutely everything at Bordeaux.
Yeah. What about for Bordeaux then? As you said, 4 minutes left on the yellow. Racing out the pussing out the scrum here. Do you think they just got to try a few things, or is it just not force things? Because Jalibert with the boot has been very, very good today on the whole, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, I think the one thing you have seen, the one thing you have seen is that Jalibert is definitely the more composed 10 on the field today, and he's going to be the one that's going to put Bordeaux in the right places. You've seen so many penalties at the breakdown. For Bordeaux, that's all they have to do realistically now is, when they get hold of the ball, play the ball down in Racing's territory and try and get a penalty out of them, because, like you said, this game, I don't think we're going to see a try now. And if we are, it'll definitely finish the game off regardless, because neither side, even though they've had their opportunities, neither side have really, on the whole, done a lot with the possession they've had. They've gone through phases. It's been silly little mistakes, so it's been penalties at the breakdown. So we'll soon find out. But yeah, for me, I think Bordeaux have got to start to become your favourites now. Yeah,
I think they are, and I think they've shown the most intent going forward, trying to score. Josh Adams apparently is overrated. Even as an Ospreys fan, I disagree with that. I think he's one of the best finishers in the world from probably about 20 metres out, and will definitely be on the plane for the Lions.
Yeah, he's just a class act. Really, really is.
Definitely. So 10 minutes left to go. If you're watching, you're not yet, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you do so down below. It's free to do, and like the stream as well. Reminder that myself and Ben are doing another watch along this afternoon, but it's going to be on Ben's channel, and we're going to be doing Clermont against Toulouse. We'll be going live in just over half an hour actually for that one. So do join us for that. I'll drop a link to that in the chat in just a second. So join us for that. But 10 minutes to go in this one. Anybody's game. We could even be going to extra time, which the way this game's been, I really don't want to do that. So, if I'm being totally honest, it's not been a great game, and it'll get even more cagey. But if you're Bordeaux here, there's no point competing at the breakdown, because Racing really shouldn't go anywhere, because you've got the extra man, so you should just be able to keep them going across.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it should be pretty easy to deal with, and Racing are going to kick this one.
Oh, is he able to call a mark there? Oh, he's still going though. Go on, Cordero. Great take under pressure.
Yeah. This will be cleared by Jalibert. I've been so impressed by Jalibert. Interesting question. France, Jalibert or Ntamak, who starts for you? Really tough, isn't it now?
Yeah, I think if you're in a position where you're able to choose from those two players, then you're in a fantastic place. For me, I got to be honest, I like Jalibert. I really like the way he plays the game, and I really like his vision. He's been in and around the French setup for a long time now, and he's a really, really good player. The biggest thing for him over Ntamak is I think he's got a far more composed game. I think Ntamak, he can try things sometimes that maybe are not on. And sometimes, we saw with the Wales game back in the 2019 Grand Slam, that sometimes if they are under the pump and they are struggling, he does just throw the ball out and hope for the best. So for me, I think Jalibert would be my choice at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, let us know in the chat, who would you start? What I've been really impressed, not just his creativity and his awareness of what's around him, but his game management is actually very good. I think he's been really, really good. And Adam seems to think he's really good as well. I think that, his awareness of where he is on the pitch, his awareness of whether to play the territorial game or to run with it, and also his link up with Dupont has been brilliant. Are they checking another thing here?
I think it's the same guy again. I think they're looking at the same player here, and it does look like he's kept his arms down. Watch him here now. Oh. Yeah, his arms are pointing down to the floor. He's got to be so careful doing that. We have come to a standstill.
Yeah.
As if this game needed any more breaks or time being killed off.
I don't think they're going to do anything about it, though. Oh, they're looking at it again?
Yeah, he doesn't lift his arm for me. Yeah, both his arms are facing the floor, mate. That's he's got to have some sort of sanction here, whether it's a yellow or a red, I don't know. But he's got to have something done there.
Yeah.
Yep, that's shoulder to head. Don't get me wrong, though, the player carrying is moving down, but
there's no attempt up there, is there?
We're not even looking at it. They've showed us all those camera angles, and we're not even looking at it.
I mean, I just saw that Jim Hamilton tweeted, and I don't really care what you think about Jim Hamilton. I think he's hilarious, personally. But he just said that referees are now looking for reasons to not give a red card. No, sorry, he said refs definitely trying not to give red cards now, which I think now people are like, oh, everyone's talking about it at the minute. I'm going to do everything I can not to give a red. Now, I'm not saying that should have been a red, but you've certainly got to look at that and you've got to say, okay, there's no attempt to wrap there. Yes, there's a little bit of mitigation because the player is dipping down. Jalibert.
Oh, this is lovely play.
Oh, Bordeaux. If they can get a quick ball here, there'll be space out.
Big Bedlam's through. Oh, if he'd got that inside pass away, that was try time then.
Big chance here for Bordeaux. But I think that the referee's bottled a few decisions today.
Yeah.
Really bottled them.
I think if you look back to the first club break that we had after the first round of the Six Nations, and I think in the Premiership there was something like in the Friday night alone there was something like 6 red cards given across 2 games, and they were saying like, oh, this is it now. Referees are looking out for red cards all the time, etc., etc. And I think to an extent they have to, because I think the pressure of social media, the pressure of people around the rugby globe now, they want to see referees getting these big decisions right. But like you said, it's almost like they're looking for it nowadays. And I do think to some extent that the TV coverage in the stadiums doesn't help, because it's like they show what they want the referee to see.
Yeah, I think he's bottled too. I think the first incident that we saw for the yellow, for me, it probably should have been a red. Jalibert is going for the post here. And then that second incident there, they look at it for a good 5 minutes and then nothing happens about it. Nothing happens. And for me, you've got to be looking at that and saying, okay, look, we don't want to see red cards in the game, but there needs to be... The ref needs to have a chat with the TMO there. He needs to have a chat with the TMO. Jalibert and is successful. So Bordeaux go ahead with just over 5 minutes left in this one. 21 points to 18. This would be a bit of a shock if Bordeaux win this, but you got to say Bordeaux have been the better team.
I was just going to say, I think everybody, including myself, I think we all had Racing to win this one. But I think if they do go ahead and win this game now, it won't be undeserved. I think they've played. To say they've played well is probably a stretch. I think they've managed the game that they're in really, really well, and the best sides they always do that. It doesn't matter who they play in. Excuse me. Doesn't matter who they're playing with them, where they're playing them. What the conditions are of the game. The best sides get the job done.
Yeah,
and Bordeaux, they've adapted to the game really, really well. Jalibert has probably kicked more than we usually see him kick, but like we've just seen in the last few minutes now, he's looking to attack a little bit more as defences are starting to tire. But you have to say now the Bordeaux move into prime position to reach the semi-finals.
Yeah, very much so. And a lot of injuries, obviously, for Racing. Of course, Finn Russell was missing. through that red card against France. Good kick that from Jalibert. Good awareness of the space behind. That's what Bordeaux need to do now. They need to play the territorial game. They need to be aware of where they are on the pitch, not try to play too much, not do a Bryce Dulin and play 22, which would not be too good at all. We are nearing the end of this game. We're actually very close to hitting 1,520 subscribers. So if you've not yet hit the subscribe button, make sure to do so. Let's see if we can hit that by the end of the stream. So hit the subscribe button down below. So that is what we'd love to try and hit.
What's the hooker done there? He's literally thrown the ball into the back of one of his players. I'm lost. Lovely from Jalibert. That poor guy has got no other option there than to run it out.
No, exactly.
Lovely kick from Jalibert.
Kick slightly goes wrong and it bounces out. It doesn't matter. So a decent kick behind puts him in good territory. Do you know what? He's not done anything ridiculously good, but his management of the game, his decision making has been top class today. And I think it's only one kick all game.
Well, we said before the game, that it was the star quality of players like Jalibert that were going to, help Bordeaux compete. And he had to be at his top level if they were going to compete. And my gosh, when he's been given the opportunity to do so, especially now in these closing stages, with 4 minutes to go, he's really put Bordeaux in the right places on the field.
So line out here, 5 meters out, 3 and a bit minutes to go. Racing steal the ball. Poor line out. I mean, that hooker since coming on has had an absolute.
I was just going to say, I think both the replacement hookers have really had problems since they come on. Both lineouts have struggled at stages, but Racing have got to go from deep now if they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I know there's still plenty of time on the clock, but I don't see Racing kicking the ball away here because I think Bordeaux will have the confidence to close the game out from within their own half.
I think Racing have been really poor today. I think they've been really poor. And I know a lot of injuries. The game has not really had much flow to it at all, but they've not looked like scoring at all.
No.
Saying that, they'll probably go the length of the field and score now, and I'll look like a muppet. But
if so, that'd be another classic Brandon Smith clip. I love whenever I go back to the night of the Ospreys Leinster game, it always tickles me. We got absolutely no chance of winning this game. we might do this. It's definitely on. If we score one more try, we level. And you won.
The bad thing was, I think we were 2, maybe 3 tries down, and I said, if we get another try, it makes it interesting. But I'm not saying we're going to win this. We get another try, I'm like, all right, okay, it might happen. We get another one. I'm like, okay, I believe we can do this now. And Joe Thomas charges the kick down, and then honestly, it's absolute scenes. It's absolute scenes. It's I have not been that happy for the Ospreys for such a long time. And after, I don't know, I mean, Leinster obviously were very rotated for that team, but you'd have to say their team was stronger than ours. We played a lot of kids that day, but we're really, really impressed by that. That is on my second channel, by the way. I haven't uploaded up there for a long time. I need to do, but it's been stolen by Bordeaux here with 2 minutes to go. They are going to kick this one, though. Is Jalibert going to kick it? Caught in a little bit of trouble there. And penalty to Racing right in front of the post. Jalibert's first mistake of the match. Please don't make us go to extra time.
It's going to happen, isn't it?
Be interested to see what Racing decide here, though. Jalibert has to kick this. I don't know why he fakes it.
Another rabbit in the headlight moments there, I think.
Yeah. For all the good stuff he's done there, he's just got to twat that and say, get rid.
Yeah.
Get them on the field. They've gone for the post, for goodness sake. We're going to extra time here, boys, I think.
We've got a minute to go. Is he going to take, don't know how much longer.
Here. We do not want to go to extra time.
Did you, I was just about to say, did you watch the Sale game yesterday? Of course you did. You did 4 watch-alongs. I thought he'd missed that then. Oh, that was a horrible strike. AJ McGinty And Freddie, you'll know more of this because you watch it week in, week out. I've never seen someone take so long over lining a penalty up.
Me and Kyle were going on about it, and we were like, this is ridiculous.
It takes like literally the full minute and a half every time. Oh my God!
Oh, the ball's out! Is he going to get there? Oh my gosh! Yes, no extra time! Gets in! And Bordeaux won it with 15 seconds to go. They're going to check it.
Of course they got to check it, but fair play. If this gets given, what a finish. What a finish. What?
Out of nowhere from the breakdown, the ball spills out. Now the question is, how does it come out?
Yeah, that's the main thing, because he was in a lot of space there.
How did that come out? I'd be interested to see.
So this all comes down to now, where is the TMO from?
Exactly.
Where is the French coverage presenter from? Is he a man of Bordeaux or is he a man from Paris? What angle is he going to show?
15 seconds to go and they scored. So they're going to check this.
To be fair,
the only thing I can do wrong with that is where's that come out of the ruck? Tackle is fine.
Is it hands in the ruck? Oh, no, that's come off a Racing hand.
That's
if you look at it,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Jones takes it down. He goes to present it. Oh, there is a hand that flicks it out. I don't know whose hand it is.
It's Bordeaux's hand. I think it's
I don't think this is going to be given.
For goodness sake.
To be fair, I was just about to say we've been so patient. We've waited. And
we got
for a try.
Thought we had Jack Gartland. We thought we had a try for Bordeaux, but unfortunately, it is probably not going to count hands in the ruck. Well, 15 seconds left to play, 21 points apiece.
Yeah, that's hands in the ruck. You can't do that.
It's the wing of Bordeaux. This is going to go to extra time, I think. So annoying.
We thought we were there. Of course. Yeah, that's
going to extra time in this one. But over 50 people currently watching this watch along. Thank you very much for all French class. Did not expect that. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so already. This is going to be a no try. So I think we had about a second left to play.
Yeah, it was. That would have been the last play of the game.
Yeah, what a way that would have been to have won the game. Here we go. Let's see what the referee's got to say.
No try.
Yeah, no try.
Scrum. That's hands in the... Oh, I'm just going to say, he can't not give a try and then give a scrum for a knock on. His hands in the ruck. Yeah.
It was meant to be a try, Andrew, for Bordeaux. Bordeaux have been the better team today. They deserve to win this.
Yeah.
We're going to go to extra time.
Well, they've got one play to do it. It's a great penalty kick. I thought it went way further than that. They got one throw of the dice now. Yeah. Oh, can you imagine?
Let's try here, please.
A Curtly Beale halfway line special.
Well, two Welshmen now bring back flashbacks. I'm not sure if I could deal with that, but I wouldn't mind it today.
Might shed a tear.
I think he did that 2 or 3 times against us.
Yeah. I think I remember I was in the stadium for that game, and I've never known the Millennium or the Principality now. It just went silent, and it was like, what's just happened? You just can't do that. That's a good driving position. They've got to be careful they don't collapse this year. I mean, it's just about being squeaky clean now.
So this sprint's going to be key for both teams. I mean, if I'm Racing here, you just keep the ball and hope that Bordeaux do something stupid at the breakdown and put it within kicking distance.
Oh, it's a penalty to Bordeaux. Has Jalibert got the beans? Has Jalibert got the beans from like 55 metres out?
You've got to go for it. You've got to go for it.
It is blowing a gale. It's blowing an absolute gale. Hang on. He's going for it.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be scenes if this goes over. Do you know what? If he gets this...
What a finish.
55 metres. He's going to have to hit this so clean and he's going to have to take the wind into consideration.
Yeah. He's kicked really, really well all game. And if you look at look at how he's kicked as well, like he's judged it really, really well with the wind. But this is a completely different kettle of fish. This has got to be right on the edge of his range.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Sounds like it's
Penny in the team. You're like, yeah, 100%. You've got to go for it, though. You just got to go for it. Here we go. Matteo Jalibert to put Bordeaux into the semi-finals of the Champions Cup.
He's done it! He's done it!
What a kick for Bordeaux! Bordeaux have done it. Bordeaux are into the semi-finals of the Champions Cup. Jalibert has absolutely twatted it from 55 metres. What a kick! What a way to finish this. Finally, the game is over. But what a way to finish the game. Matteo Jalibert. What a kick from him. You got to say, he's been the best player on the pitch. He's been so good today. Honestly, so good. Bordeaux have beaten Racing. I don't think many people would have predicted this. What a result. What bottle from him.
Oh, that's a superb kick.
Watching it and then they're all going crazy. You'd love to see it.
But then, like, it's in moments like that you see how much it means to teams.
Yeah.
And especially against a side like this.
What a way to finish an absolutely crap game of rugby. But what a way to finish. Absolutely brilliant. Let me know your thoughts in the chat quickly before we jump over, because we're going to do a watch along on Ben's channel for Clermont against Toulouse. If it's got the drama of that, then we'll be in for a good watch along. So you're going to want to join us for that one. But quickly before we jump off then, Ben, crap game, great finish. Bordeaux deserve to win though, right?
Yeah, definitely, mate. You look at, like you said, the bottle there that they showed towards the end of that game. Yes, there were times where they sort of stumbled their way through the game, but ultimately they were the better side, and I think they did deserve that win. Racing, they'll rue the chances that they missed, and likely that it would be the same for the Bordeaux side, because, you know, they missed that try at the end. But, you know, we got a massive clash coming up next, and we will soon find out who Bordeaux will play in the semi-finals.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be a massive game. So just before we go, make sure you're subscribed here on the channel down below. Hit the red button down below and that you've liked the stream as well. I'm dropping a link in the chat now to the Clermont versus Toulouse watch along. We're going to be live there in about 10 minutes time for that one. So make sure to hit that link and hit the like button and subscribe to Ben's channel as well. Make sure that you do that. Head over there and subscribe to his channel, and we'll be ready for that watch along in just a second. Thank you very much for joining us today. Jump straight across now, guys, and we will see you there in about 10 minutes time.